In accordance with the customs of this university, I open the ceremony with a prayer. Spiritus Sancti Gratia illuminat sensus et corda nostra. Please be seated. So, welcome to this PhD ceremony for the defense of, Ingenieur Mark Mulder. So my name is Tom Heskes. I'm a professor in computer science. I'm not the actual rector, but I'm kind of acting today as the rector, and I will be chairing the session. So we have quite some guests. Some of them you cannot see yet because they're on the Zoom session. So they are abroad, but we also have some people here. I will introduce them when they will become part of the opposition and will start asking questions. But first, I would like to give the floor to the candidate.
With the permission of the doctoral board, and in order to obtain the degree of doctor from Radboud University Nijmegen, I would like to defend in public my dissertation entitled Enabling the Automatic Verification and Exchange of Demo Models. I started this promotion about 9 years ago at LAC, where I first met Martin Opperland, and wanted to do a promotion on cross-channel communication design. During that project, I found out that that was too broad, and I got some more focus towards building a Delta processor, evolvable organizations, and toward business model integration. Finally, I focused on tooling for demo models, meta models, and the improvement of the theory to do that. Last year, I finished writing after a long time, and a lot of people are happy I finished writing. I'm going to use some analogies because the theory that I describe is quite difficult, so I'm going to use IKEA. When you want to build a house, or a wigwam, or maybe even a castle, you're going to need the manual from IKEA to do that. And the same applies for building something in demo. And you want to use this in practical sense. So just building it by using the manual is nice for small examples, but not for big ones. I did try to start building models and trying to find tools. And sadly, there were none that would comply to the whole theory and do what you wanted to do. So for that, I was looking for all tooling. I did research on which tooling was available. I found 10 candidates, of which none really complied to the whole method. I asked the community, do you know anything else that can help? But most work was done on paper and on PowerPoint. And therefore, we also looked at specifications. What do we need to build this tooling? And during the research, we found out that we needed more specifications to build this tooling. If you look at the demo specification language and the way it's written down, and feed that to a computer, then you get all kinds of nice things, but not quite the things you want. There might be some misunderstandings in specifications. Things do not work well with how things should be in the computer. And even some things are impossible. So what do? You need to build a tool for the methodology, and you need to change the methodology to be able to build a tool. So that's why I started improving it. Also, the visualization of demo in practice. I did 5 case studies where we try to apply the methodology. The visualization is difficult. Not only when you make a model that people in practice have a different opinion on how it looks and how you should interpret it, but also the things that you write down should be written down again in the same way. Giving this model, this is a demo model, to a C-level audience is really a challenge. We built something in a gamification style, and then it becomes more clear. But still, we didn't find out what the visualization is the right way for this level of communication. Doing demo modeling in a manual way is fine. We do it on the courses, and we can see that people can do it. Automating it is something completely different. What rules do apply? How many rules are there? Are they written? And how do you visualize that? This is how we finally visualized it. On the right-hand side, we have all lines of text of the narrative that need to be interpreted to do the right process design. In the middle, you can see a visualization of this narrative with all kind of tooling around it, because the tooling was built inside an existing tool. How did I get there? Well, in the beginning you say, I want just a tool. It has to be built into something, and this is my artifact. Maybe some functionality, because I need to do something with the tool in the end. So, some conversion, simulation, execution. There are already execution engines for demo models. So that's where I started to do something. And then, but the theory need to be adjusted, because there we're talking about diagrams, descriptions, and all kinds of shapes. But those need to be automated too. So we get shape scripts, and we get shapes, and shapes need to be on diagrams. And all those elements need to be dragged onto something. Oh, now we're getting a bit more artifacts. And we need to adjust the theory. The rules need to be written down. The action model has to be optimized. And those components also have to be in the tool itself. Finally, to store all that information, we need data models, meta models, and all that also has to be programmed. And now we suddenly have a lot of more of artifacts than initially intended. What did I achieve? In the end, the demo meta model has been improved. The specification language has improved. A tool has been built where you actually can model demo, at least 90% of the parts that we want to model. There's an exchange model so that we can exchange the information about the models with other tools. We can verify that the model has an internal validity. And the visualization has been written down for the models and for the exchange, so that we can make sure that the internal and external views are the same. in the end, we have a nice tool that can model demo and can help us use it in practice. Having presented this summary of my dissertation, I return the floor to the rector.
Thank you very much. Let me now introduce quickly the people that you can see both here live and on the screen. So 2 of them will not be asking any questions, but they are definitely very important. So that's Erik Proper, Professor Erik Proper next to me, who's one of the supervisors, and also Professor Jan Dietz, who's on Zoom in the upper right corner for you, in the top right corner. He's also one of the supervisors. So the candidate was happy to have 2 supervisors. The other people will be asking questions, so I will introduce them when it's basically their time. And the first one in line, and we're very happy to have her here today, is Professor Monique Snoek from KU Leuven. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much.
I will.
Thank you.
No, the next one.
Is this working?
Yeah, it does work.
Now it's working. First of all, since I have myself developed a modeling language and tool support for it, etc., I was of course very interested in your work because it's right in my domain of expertise. And I must say I have read your book with great pleasure. I appreciate a lot how systematic you were in really analyzing the current state that it was, the shortcomings that there were, and how you addressed it. It was also very complete work, so really congratulations for your work. It's really well done. Nevertheless, I have a few questions. I think it's based on the expertise that I have myself with building a tool for supporting people to use the M.A.T method. As you said in your thesis, I'm completely right. People build models, and a model can be under construction, which means it's temporarily incomplete, and then at a certain moment when you want to do something else with it, you want to know whether it's okay or not. So you do have consistency rules, but you cannot enforce them right away because you want the people to do this, on the go. We have used 3 different methods to support the people in making models complete and consistent. One is that we do not allow people to add a construct if this would conflict with an already existing element in the model. One would be to have a model checker that simply runs a report and tells us, yeah, this is missing, etc. And the third one would be an autocomplete function, which is actually the most challenging element that we have in the tool, so that when an object needs mandatory or a concept needs mandatorily another concept, so for example, if you say a transaction must have an actor, for example, you could suggest an actor or you could create one per default. I was wondering, did you consider these kind of strategies? Would they be possible in the tool that you have developed? Can you elaborate a bit on that?
Yeah. Honored Madam. We have built 2 of the 3 concepts you just mentioned. When we, for example, do from a transaction to an executor connection, we decide which way the connector should be, so that we always have the connection from transaction to the executing actor role, and that it cannot be the other way around. Mm-hmm. So that's a part of helping the modeler to do it right. Another way that we use this practice is generating diagrams that are generatable. For example, in demo 3 we have an OCD, and in demo 4 we have the CSD. They represent the same concept, so they can be generated, so the modeler is helped to do that. A transaction has the standard transaction pattern, that is also generated, so you don't have to create it. So in that way we help the modeler to create the basic things that already exist. The verification, so that the model is can be incomplete, is done afterwards, indeed. So you have to verify it manually. So those 2 of the 3 concepts we have used in this tool. Yeah.
And the third one you did not use because it's not possible, or because
it was, the tool was not ready at that moment. We're but that's past my dissertation. We're building that one right now.
Okay, thank you very much. Now maybe a follow-up question, maybe you also, demo itself is already a multi-perspective modeling methods because you have different perspectives. But of course, there are many more other modeling languages, and you also hint towards that it might be interesting to connect a demo model to other aspects. Could be a BPMN model, could be a UML class diagram, whatever. Of course, there would be a certain ontological overlap. There would be concepts from demo that appear in the other meta model. So you would have two meta models, the one of demo, for example, and the one of BPMN, or the one of UML. And then my question is, how would you connect such meta models? Would you seek for having concepts that are identical in both languages? Or would you go for a linking meta model that kind of connects one concept here with one concept there?
Yeah.
What would be your preference? How would you approach that?
My approach in the cases we did, is using a semantic specification for the connection between two existing models. It's true that some concepts are present in both demo and BPMN. For example, an actor is present in both, and they can be interchangeable depending on your definition in the project you're using. The connector we used for that is executed by, for example. So in making this connection, you prevent people from learning extra things that are not in that language itself, but only for connecting them. So you have a better learning curve for connecting multiple models.
But would that then mean that if you define actors in demo, you would have to define them again in your BPMN model because they are not identical? Or would you transfer them? I'm really thinking of tool support. So you start with creating a demo model, and then you want to refine or implement a certain process. So you want to have like a BPMN process model to go the whole way, no code execution of that model. How would you then exactly do it for your actor?
I would choose which concepts from which language you will use to generate the software in the end. So what we did, for example, for generating Mendix is creating entities and creating attributes that were the same concept as it would be in Mendix, and adding that in the demo entity model. The same with actors and actor roles that you define so that they can be security roles or users.
Okay, so as I understand it, you kind of incorporate concepts of the other meta model into the demo meta model.
We link them. So semantically we incorporate them, but technically we just link them. We keep the concepts in the meta models where they are.
Okay, good. Right time for short one. A very short one. Okay. In the cases you did, you discussed like the lessons learned for each case, and some of those lessons were that actually the demo method is not that easy to use for a number of people. You also said yourself, presenting that to the C-suite people, not going to work. To what extent can a tool help to do that? You give one example, which is the 3D visualization, but of course that's very specific. Can tools in general support people in understanding a method better? What kind of general support would you see there?
That's part of the research we're doing right now. We're trying to get the visualization and nudging about how can we help people to understand the technical drawings or transform technical drawings, preferably real time, to understandable drawings with just pictures, so that you can simplify concepts and visualize them so that it's intuitive for those stakeholders.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. So we will move on with the next one in line, and maybe I should add here that until a couple of years ago, we hardly had any kind of people joining through Zoom, but because of COVID, we're kind of used to it now. And it's really great because we really have kind of the world experts on this topic now online with us today. And one of them is Professor Joseph Bartjes. He's from San Jose State University in the United States. So it must be very early for you. So we're really happy that you're here, and we're eager to hear your questions.
Thank you very much. Indeed, it was early. When I woke up, it was 5 a.m. to prepare and set up everything. Nonetheless, I did this with a great enthusiasm. I knew the excitement that I had. So my esteemed colleagues, first of all, the candidate, I'm impressed by the rigor of the work that you put into this research, the breadth of publications, and the intellectual passion over a span of 8 years. That's impressive. There is no doubt in my mind that in each step of your research over these 8 years, you had in your mind the relevance of this research, how this research will help enterprises, especially for a tool being regarded as an enterprise scale or enterprise grade. I'm glad that you took all this PowerPoint research and turned it into an actual enterprise grade tool. So my question is around enterprise transformation, especially for the demo methodology being designed, being developed for organizations. So my question is, for enterprises facing transformational challenges or just embarking on any fundamental changes, how does work support enterprise transformation by doing simple things, just 3 simple things: capturing the current state, defining the future or the envisioned state, and then having metrics or any indicators that will help you tracking transition or transformation from current state to the future state. If you comment on this, I would really appreciate it. This is so relevant that this work has applicability right now in many, many large companies, at least here in the US, and I'm pretty confident the same is for Europe. Thank you.
Anna, sir. The tool is able to model current, future, and intermediate states. The enterprise grade demand that we made also helps by defining what information you should be able to store. An as-is state can be stored in this tool, Sparks, and you can have a base. The new states can be added to that, and then we have the gap automatically. So by using this enterprise grade tool, we have all those, thank you, all those parts that make enterprise changes possible. So just the tool as would be demo only, then it would be quite nasty to do that, because their multi-model and multi-environment makes it possible to do just these things. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Not related directly to this question, well, it is related, I must say, that I like that layer of dynamics and animations that you added, and I fully agree. While demo models are probably the most simplified, like in terms of abstraction, still you have to be able to communicate it with people that they have either no time for proper education or training, nor they are very good at learning diagrams right in the fly. So I like that dynamics or that animation part. And I remember many years back when we were looking at demo models, and one of the things that we were discussing is that just merely bringing some animation, like movement of entities and also interactions of the parties. And also maybe on the surface, replacing the diagrams like the disk and diamonds with more like intuitive icons will really improve communication and sharing that mental knowledge of the enterprise. Thank you very much. That was just an observation or comment. I am fully satisfied.
Thank you very much. Then we can move on to the next one in line, and that is Professor José Tribolet from the Technical University of Lisbon. The floor is yours.
Thank you. I would like to compliment the candidate for his work, his thesis, and also to express my satisfaction to see that the line of work and school of thought that Gentitz created on enterprise engineering and with demo is being pursued and getting more and more to the real world. And your thesis is certainly a major contribution to that. And it's a very well written thesis, very, very nice, and my compliments. I have two questions. The first one is this. As you expressed very well, the connections you made between different models expressing, interlinking the semantics from one side to the other, I'd like you to comment on the need to interlink the semantics of normal people, not modelers or enterprise architects, the people that actually do things in the enterprise, the people that actually know reality as the reality is being done, and therefore which are by nature the primary sensors of the organization to help in the future align dynamically the model of the enterprise with the reality of the enterprise as it happens. So this thesis and your work is certainly very profound, and the further explorations that it's clearly pointed out that need to be done, you already mentioned, but it's mainly for experts. It's not for normal people. So how do you envision providing a framework and tools for normal people to be able to communicate and see the alignment or misalignment between reality and the model and provide useful input for automatically the model to update?
Honor, sir. The challenge in using technical models in normal human practice is the visualization on one side and the combination of perspectives on the other side. Where demo is, for example, demo, but it applies to all other notations, is written very concrete. The interpretation of people is not that concrete. So several interpretations might change along the way. We envision that these models, because they are defined correct and complete, can be changed using the perspectives that we use to another model or to another visualization. So what we did with the gamification, moving diagrams, we also envision that these diagrams can be changed real time to things that people understand. so that the modeler understands the real technical stuff and people on the floor can see what is happening for them. That means that research like changing demo to BPMN and visualizing BPMN because people understand that a bit better, or even towards narratives, changing models to narratives real time could be a solution to this problem. Another thing what we're investigating at this moment is adding not just 2 diagrams to make it more understandable. What is the flow? Because a demo model has no flow, and what is the flow for people? So those additions that could be automatically added to diagrams, that's where we try to go.
Thank you. The second question is this. Of course, as you mentioned clearly, you cannot model the whole enterprise as one initiative. You know, it's too much. So we have to model domains or certain viewpoints. Now, in a real enterprise, of course, a lot of this activity happens by different professionals, and you say what you've done, provide a collaboration environment for the exchange of models and making all of this coherent. Now, how do you recommend methodologically people to actually define their viewpoints, their domains of interest, in a way that this collaboration becomes easier? What I'm trying to say is, like in programming, you can do that, and you have mechanisms that you can get pieces from libraries, you can put them together, compile the whole thing, and from your experience, and you have a lot of experience, how do you recommend in a company to actually do that? In other words, to have a way to envision how to progressively, iteratively capture the reality of enterprise according to the different interests. How do you do that?
Actually, the same way we program using libraries, we can do the same with modeling. In the new enterprise ontology book, we have reference models about certain ways that we can model things as a standard. And the same way we can create libraries of models. People can use that and add their environment to that reference model and combine those. The same way we program and use other parts in libraries online, we can create an environment where everybody models in the same environment and use modular models, modular model. So demo can be used modular. I can model one department and the other department without interference. And all notations and methodologies that can do that can be used together. So combining these methodologies that can be modular, that can be from a reference model, can be used to model a big organization relatively easy. We will not reduce the complexity, but we will reduce the complexity of building the model.
Thank you, I'm satisfied.
Thank you very much. Then now we will move from Portugal to Austria. And there we have Dr. Dominique Borg from the Technical University of Vienna. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Also from my side, congratulations to the candidate. Mark, you did a very, very good job. I was very happy to be elected and invited to join today because of two reasons. The reason number one is that I think your thesis kind of explores and works in detail in two fields that are underdeveloped in the research community. And the one field is the field of how do we specify our modeling methods that we use. And the second field is about tool development. And both fields, I think, are very, very important and very essential when we talk about modeling, when we talk about adoption of modeling in enterprises. For some reason, both are not well developed yet. So I was very happy that you dedicated a lot of your time in the past years to explore these fields and to contribute new knowledge, which you definitely did. And the second reason is I also just want to mention, I think your thesis is also quite related to mine. I had several similar experiences because I perceived also your thesis as a means of using tool development as a means to validate the specification of a language. And although I was working on a different modeling method, I had similar problems, right? So my questions relate to this aspect. Now several years back, I'm now asking you questions while several years ago I was standing there, being nervous. You shouldn't be. But the question is, what can we learn for the next generation? So in a few years from now, what, based on your thesis, I'm concentrating now on the specification. What would you recommend? What was your lessons learned? Because demo is very well specified. So this is one of the best, most comprehensive specified languages. Still, you had major challenges where things were unclear, still things were not formal. Yeah? So a computer needs to be formal, needs to have a formal input, right? So can you elaborate a little bit on this? How can we generalize your findings? How can the next generation of tool developers and method specification writers learn from your experience?
Honor, sir. The specifications are often written with humans in mind. As I wrote the whole demo book, Enterprise Ontology, and the demo specification language is written for people to understand. People interpret a lot of information and read between the lines. A computer cannot, at least not yet. By validating all written information in a computer, you can make sure that everything is extensively written down. So every tool that's been built around a methodology or a notation will come to the same problems because it's not written down correctly, sufficiently. And that's a part of the thesis where I talk about the exchange model for visualization. That's something that in most notations is not written down. I have read IDEF 0, and that's quite extensively in where every line should be and how big the corners are, etc. That's almost computer language. All other notations only suggest where something would be and how it was right. And so if we define a new notation and we define it directly in a tool that has to visualize that notation, there's only one way. You have to specify it extensively. What line should be to what elements. And I would recommend to do a new notation together with a new tool that makes sure that you define it like that.
Yeah, thank you. I think, if I can suggest also something, if you have some time for research also in the future, I know from our discussions that you are still engaged. I think it would be a pity if you don't share your experience on how to improve the specifications themselves with the community. I think value to generalize these findings. Yeah. I also have a second question, and the second question relates to some extent also to what we have discussed already with the different stakeholders involved in modeling and their different knowledge and expertise. And this is covering kind of an ongoing topic about formality or flexibility of modeling methods and tools, right? And in your picture of the slides, you used the IKEA model as a metaphor, right? And I liked it, of course. But I would challenge you and I would say the metaphor is lacking at some points because you showed the screwdriver to do something, right? And I would say the screwdriver is not an adequate metaphor for demo. For me, demo is kind of a laser-pointed drilling machine, fully automated, because it's highly rich in semantics. It's an expert, a profi tool. So I would like to also ask you, what is your take on this? Should we emphasize to make the languages and the tools more open to a broader audience? Or should we also say there are tools that are for a specific kind of expert stakeholders, you know? If you look at the construction side, not everybody can use every tool because these tools are for experts only. And I think in the community of the modeling, we try to make everybody happy. And thereby we lose a lot of the rich semantics that demo provides. Can you elaborate a little bit on this imbalance?
Specialized tools are for specialists, I agree on that. If we go to a building site, we have quite expensive tools. But if we go to the DIY, you get the same type of tools, but for the non-experts. Mm-hmm. And I think that combination could also be in tooling. The experts can model the things we know how to model it, and the people that do not know can read the final information or can do some sticky notes to get their information in the model as well. They're to be picked up by the experts, and just like in building construction, where the experts come after you try to fix something. So that combination is very well doable in tooling. We're moving all tooling to the cloud, online, collaborative, and in that way the common people, workforce can put sticky notes on, they can be picked up by the experts and processed into the model. Next to what I already said, the automatic translation of the expert models towards narratives that can be understandable to the normal people again.
Mm-hmm. I think that would be very interesting to explore this further. You know, there's this nice story, like if you have a compiler, it checks your code and it says, here's a question mark missing. And then the question that we should ask, why don't we put this question mark there automatically? You know, and the same is for models. You know, if we have a well-specified meta model, we can do a lot, but we didn't do. And I think your thesis pushes into the right direction. And I want to encourage you. Thank you very much for this nice work. I'm very satisfied with your answers. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you so much. Then now we gonna leave Zoom and we're gonna back to kind of real in-person meeting, which is also really nice, of course. And I will give the floor to Dr. Stijn Hoppenbrouwers, who is both affiliated with the Hogeschool Arnhem-Nijmegen and with the Radboud University. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Rebecca. Dear candidates, shall I put this on? Yeah. Dear candidates, my congratulations on delivering a thesis on a very challenging subject in context of a real-life practical background as a consultant and a tool developer. Making theory and practice meet is always harder than people think, and I'm well aware of the tons of work behind your thesis that are not even explicitly part of it, including the development of the tool, and you have my deep respect for the job done and for the tenacity that this must have required of you. Question time. You present your overall research as a repeated cycle of incremental improvement along the lines of the design science approach. A quote from page 150 where you plainly say, every iteration has influenced the creation of the next ones. That's clear. However, looking at the diverse cases you present, a somewhat suspicious reader like myself might think that your iterations are rather like a number of jobs, relevant as they may be, that came on your professional path and led to a series of reality checks, leading to a case-specific adaptation in each case. Without questioning the required validity of your work, would you agree with me that there is a difference between iterations design science style that are planned as an integrated stepwise route to progress, and on the other hand, the validation at the hand of more ad hoc series of separate, distinct, relevant, compatible case studies? So the main question is, was there a coherent plan behind choosing the cases?
Honest, sir. There is a coherent plan on developing the tool. And the cases that we got were scoped so that it will fit within the development of the tool. So the cases that I have described in the thesis have been scoped so that the part that fit in the whole plan is listed. The cases themselves were bigger. The development of the demo tooling and how it would fit within the organization and how you visualize it, we have been searching for cases that encompass that part. So they are for 5 cases that were sequentially and were influenced by the results we had last time. So both statements, are they cases from business? Yes. And we have scoped them to be applicable in research. And the parts that were not applicable were done differently.
Thank you. That's a very nuanced answer. To carry on with this, and slightly echoing the question by Professor Triboulet, each case or iteration you present results in some adaptation of demo, improvement if you like, and its use, reflected in the meta model and possibly also in the tooling. Now, following, for example, work by Maria Bjekovic, who stood here before you, this could be viewed as the creation of a series of situation-specific dialects of demo. So that would be dialects fitting their specific requirements in those situations for a one-off situation, if you like. Now, would you agree with this idea? And if so, how would you relate this to the standard, perhaps more plain vanilla demo meta model and the tool you present as the final result? So might domain-specific dialects be a desirable thing to have in some cases, in addition to the golden standard of demo?
From practice, I see that demo lacks some concepts, especially when you're going towards implementation. There we need some new concepts, and the discussion, should it be part of demo or an extension of demo, is ongoing. Some parts that we found out that were really missing to model everything within the organization according to the theory of demo, those are really missing. Example, the actor is only described in the actor function matrix of demo, but is never described as a visual component somewhere. So that need to be extended because it's there already, but not visualized. And some other concepts we found that need that same information. And another part that we added to the extension of demo is the implementation part, where you have roles in the formal part and security roles in the implementation part. So those are the same concept in another environment, but it is necessary in practice.
Thank you.
There's still time, because I noticed that you have some more on the other page.
That's true. Which one? Well, in quite a few places, in particular in chapter 6, you mentioned that demo in its standard form is very complex, or even too complex to work with. Also, even though you do not claim or emphasize it, I believe that you did somewhat informally do some usability and user studies as part of your research, especially in chapter 6. In this vein, how would you feel about the possible conclusion one might draw based on this, that the usability of demo and your demo tool is problematic because of its complexity? And what would you suggest to remedy this? And I realize that this is something that's already been touched upon.
Yeah, it's been touched upon. We need to help people where things are already clear. We need to change the visualization of the different perspectives so that it's easier understandable. There have been some research in Madeira also changing the visualization of specific diagrams. And that can be part or should be part of at least the extension of demo, but could be part of demo itself. And tooling will help to get the same meta and data from your model to visualize it differently. So that would really help.
So one term that's often used in this is lightweight demo, lightweight version of demo. Would that be possible, or would you lose, also echoing what Dr. Borg asked and said, do you lose the essence? Do you need something else to complement, or would lightweight demo be a possibility in your view?
The question would be, what is lightweight?
True.
And you cannot really reduce the amount of elements and the amount of connections between those elements, because then the completeness would be touched. You can use different visualizations and simplifications on that, like from demo 3 to demo 4, where the transaction and the act role becomes a transactor, is a simplified visualization. Those kind of simplify measures could help.
Okay, I think that's it.
Thank you very much. Then, last but not least, I would like to give the floor to Professor Arjen de Vries from our own Radboud University.
Dear candidate, I appreciated the attention that you have spent on the utility of your research. So it's not just about an abstract modeling language, but it's about using that language in practice and how to make that feasible. You think it's okay? So, should I repeat it?
It was clear.
That was the compliment part. Now the question part starts. However, so at the start of your thesis, you introduce a number of views on design science. And I once had lectures from Roel Wieringa, and I also like his writings on that topic. And you write on page 45, you write that we concluded in section 151 that Wieringa's approach matches our research objectives the most. But could you actually point out to me where you take that decision and you argue that it matches the most? Because what I found is explanation of Wieringa's view, but not really why it's a good choice for your research.
Page 50.
Page 45 at the top, but I read it out already. You say,
Yeah.
We concluded that Wieringa's DSR approach matches our research objectives most from the 3 alternative models that you discuss. So I was wondering, where's that actually written? And why is it the case that this matches the most? Maybe that's easier to answer.
We use design science research for because we create an artifact, and the artifact is not fuzzy. We know what we are creating, and we want to do it step by step. So that's why we come to design science research. The various methods that I've read have different approaches. And from heart, I don't know exactly which parts came to this conclusion, but we have an iterative design. We do not know upfront where we will end up. It is not that we try to reach this target and take 5 iterations, and this method complies to that most.
Okay. And you write, for example, you quote Wieringa on that the final evaluation of the artifact involves evaluation of the result of the implementation with one or more stakeholders in the field. But right before, you actually say, we are not interested in the way people use the demo methodology. So I found those two views hard to reconcile. And so what Wieringa writes is we have stakeholders, we have goals, and what was the third thing? You can help me maybe. I wrote it here. The context is very important. So we can only evaluate that purpose in context. And then at the same time, you're right, we don't really care about the people that use demos. So how can you bridge those two statements, actually?
We're not focusing on the people that use demo, but how they interpret demo, how they perceive demo.
But then,
yeah.
okay, so your artifact is demo, and that's also what you show in figure 110 and in the intro talk, right? You have all these parts of demos, that's important. On the other hand, you also create this tool, and for me, the tool is the artifact.
It's also an artifact, yeah.
And I would be interested in, does this tool, does your research show that this tool is satisfactory to apply demo in practice? It's also sort of what you set out to do, I understood in the intro of the thesis.
Yeah.
So where is that actually happening?
We didn't get to that point yet, where the tool is really distributed to all kinds of demo modelers that can use the tool. We have a few people using it, but we're doing that right now in the usability, in how you can use the model. What we found out, but it's not written down, is that the limitations of the current enterprise-grade tool are becoming a problem to make it usable. So that's why the future research from this part, but the current research is using different methodologies to, not methodologies, different technology to implement the tool that everybody can use it.
Okay. And so, if we look at the case studies, because that's where the tool is being used also, and also the method, so also the things that you also included with all the artifacts. So, if you write that you found that the implementation partner was not able to understand the models, so what does that say about, in terms of Wieringa's framework of design science? What can we do now? So one of the stakeholders cannot understand what we try to do.
So that's where the presentation part, the visualization part, and the explanation part comes in play. So this is a specific example where the implementation part does not know. The visual literacy about demo is not evolved that much already in the market that we can use those models to ask for development. So there we have to translate towards models that can be understood or towards stories.
But still, if you look at the purpose and the context, and the purpose of starting this whole process is taking a decision about, well, I think your first case was what software to build, and the second case, what software to buy. But the people that are going to take the decision, they can't really follow the models that we use. So if we then go back to this design science, what's the conclusion of all this work then?
The conclusion of the work about the tooling, that we can model demo in the tooling, is still there. Whether we should use it for these cases, for these audiences, is a different question.
So who's then the stakeholder in your research? Is it you?
The stakeholder is the one reading the models and creating the models in the end. So where we try to present things to people on the floor, they understand. When we go higher level, they understand different things. That's what we found. And you don't want to be creating different models for different stakeholders, maybe add some information for different stakeholders, but not create the whole model again. So that's, where the tool still is valid and still is enough, but we need to add more information and present that information differently.
I hear that my neighbor has a very urgent question, so maybe the director would let us.
Sure. We still have to fill like 1 minute, so that should be perfectly fine.
Yeah. Okay, so another reserve question I had. So you did not describe the tool you developed in excessive detail because you focused on the meta model. Still, because of my own research interest in collaborative modeling, it's been mentioned before, in particular in viewing collaborative modeling as a focused and possibly guided dialogue, I cannot resist asking you the following. On page 157, you mentioned that feedback on the model was obtained directly by creating the OCD and TPT live with the interviewees. And that's a very typical example of collaborative modeling, actually. Now, this undeniably amounts to collaborative modeling. Does your tool already have any form of collaboration support on board, possibly integrated with the way of working?
We will never know the answer of this one. Oh, that's the answer. Okay. The defense is hereby concluded. I give the floor once again to the candidate.
Having defended my dissertation to the best of my ability, I would like to thank the director and my supervisors, as well as those who have honored this ceremony with their presence.
The doctoral examination board now retreats for its deliberations. On behalf of the doctorate board of Radboud University Nijmegen, we have decided to award you the degree of doctor. I invite Professor Proper to discharge the task assigned to him.
In the name of the Lord, with the power entrusted by law to the doctorate board, I hereby confer upon you, Mark Arnold Theodor Mulder, born in Amersfoort, the title of Doctor from Radboud University Nijmegen, to which are attached all the associated legal and customary rights and duties with respect to academia and society. As proof thereof, I present you with this doctoral diploma signed by the rector and the doctoral supervisors.
Please be seated. I will now give the floor to one of the supervisors, and actually then also to the other supervisor to give the laudatio.
Thank you. Dear Mark, Dr. Mulder, let me start by congratulating you and your family on this major achievement. Well done. Before I continue, I'd also like to take the opportunity to thank our guests in the promotion committee. In particular, our guests from abroad, so Professor Joseph Barges from San Jose State University, Dr. Dominic Borg from TU Wien, Professor Monique Snoek from KU Leuven, and Professor José Triboulet from the TU Lisbon. as well as, of course, our esteemed local members, Lector Stijn Hoppenbrouwers and Professor Arjen de Vries. Thank you, dank u schön, obrigado, and dank u wel. Now back to you, Mark. And since my esteemed colleague and co-supervisor Jan Dietz will also address you, I will keep it short-ish. So, it's just two sides. Mark, you've conducted your PhD research while combining this with the development of your own company, which is still ongoing, while also being a husband and family father. I can only hope you did a good job at that one too. And on top of that, also, you are an active member of the Enterprise Engineering community, amongst others, the Enterprise Engineering Institute. So, I guess a full agenda. So you have my fullest respect for having done all these things in parallel, and yeah, well done. Now, your work marks a very important step for enterprise engineering in general, and the demo method in particular. I think that the different people in the opposition today also mentioned that a few times. And yeah, to make a method such as demo effective in the real world, it's very important to enable the users with proper tooling, like in the case of IKEA, well thought out example. And paper is not enough. It's not just about the specification, it's not just about the method, it's also about translating it into action. So enterprise grade tool support is needed, still direly needed. And yeah, one might naively think that this is a straightforward exercise, but I think you've shown that it's not that straightforward. So just taking the description of a method and build a tool for it, well, it's not that easy. And it also shows that however good a method has been thought out, theoretically and philosophically grounded, like in the case of demo, and also tested in the real world in several cases, that still doesn't give a guarantee of just building a tool. There's a lot more needed, and developing a tool is the ultimate test. And as I was sitting here, and now improvising a little bit, as I was sitting here, I also realized that your thesis and the work you did is a kind of a homecoming, in a sense that with the field of enterprise engineering, we have looked and we are looking at different aspects, enterprise engineering and architecting at large. We look at different aspects. We look at philosophical aspects, sometimes we run into more managerial aspects, but at the end of the day, and your thesis really illustrates that, at the end of the day, for us as a field of enterprise engineering, it's also about building tools. We're not management science, we're not philosophy, we're part of business informatics, and we create tools. And it's business informatics at heart, informatica in Dutch, it's at heart. And that's what we do. And you illustrated that point really clearly, because you build a tool to support all these things. And I really thank you for that. So, back to your own research, it not only resulted in an environment to support the automatic verification and exchange of demo models, it also resulted in several refinements of the demo specification language. So it did result in insights that were improved, as well as valuable insights of creating tool support for modeling languages in general. Not just demo, but also other approaches. And I know that the next generation of tooling you're working on as we speak, well, not literally right now, but probably yesterday, you're still working on that to develop new tool support that supports other languages as well. Not just speaking about it theoretically, but you're also looking at how to keep integrating things and extending things. So, again, really well done. Yeah, so finally on a personal note, I really hope, and I'm looking forward to continue collaboration with you. So wherever both of our roads may take us, I really hope to continue our collaborations. So once more, congratulations to you and your family. And then I would like to give the floor to my esteemed colleague, Jan Dietz.
Thanks, Eric. Yeah, I just want to add a few words to the young doctor. Dear Mark, as you mentioned in your thesis already, our first contact is quite a long time ago, in 2014. And if I remember well, the EEWC in that year in Madeira was the first time that you performed in the EE community. This may sound long, 8 years. Well, it is even 10 years ago that you started. But for what we call an external doctoral student, it is not long at all, because you had to combine it, and Eric mentioned that already, with family life. Well, that holds for more people, but also with working life, full time. So this is really a great achievement that you have settled now. In the beginning, I was not sure whether you would end like you do today, standing there already a bit, and you are fully allowed to be that, glad that you have your bull, that you deserve it, because in the beginning, so in the first 3-4 years, you keep changing subject, and I thought, oh, Mike, where are we going? And luckily, about, I think now 6 years ago, you focused and fixed the subject, which is perfectly well expressed in the title of your thesis, the automatic verification and exchange of demo models. That is already a lot of work. This is your contribution to the scientific field of enterprise engineering, and I'm very happy with that. Also because it is a very practical contribution that people in the field just can use. Now, today is a very special day for you. And yesterday I realized this also, I think, a bit special for me, because it is quite unlikely that I will take up another supervising another doctoral thesis once more. Okay, so be it. I'm happy. I hope you are too. And I also hope that you have now all the time for your other position, being the chairman of the Enterprise Engineering Institute. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Professor Propo, Professor Dietz. I would now also give the opportunity for the other guests who were joining us today through Zoom to maybe say a few words to the candidate, because they don't have that opportunity after this ceremony. So maybe first, Professor Bartus.
Absolutely. Dear Mark, Dr. Mulder, this past Tuesday, just a couple of days ago, I was presenting to a multi-billion company, and the topic of my presentation was around enterprise agility and enterprise transformation. One of the most important components that helps or supports the success of enterprise transformation, we discussed the role of tools. Tools are either the breaker or the maker of a successful transformation, because people are using tools for collaboration, people are using tools for visualization, for creating that a shared mental model. You are using tools. And that was probably the last time or the latest time that I was immediately thinking about your dissertation, knowing that a few days later, a couple of days later, this defense will happen. So I just want to say that your work is important. It is very important for the times that we are living today. And thank you very much for giving us a gift. And also thank you very much for promoting that demo will become even more attractive for organization, because demo is very dear to my heart. From 1998, I started working for Jan Tietz Group, and that's where ever since I've been thinking about demo. And the last presentation I had was just 2 days ago. Plus also I lived in Amersfoort. There are many things. I look forward when I next time visit my mother in Amersfoort. So I will look meeting with you, and also raise maybe congratulate you in person. For now, congratulations and thank you very much.
Thank you. Then Professor Tribolet.
Well, Mark, I'm happy with your graduation, and I really count on you to as in charge of it of the Enterprise Institute to really push forward enterprise engineering. I hope that the birth of your thesis in Madeira leads you to increase your cooperation, you personally and you, the Enterprise Engineering Institute, with my colleagues, with Sergio, with David, and with Pedro Sousa. I truly believe, I don't know if you explored that at all during these years, that the connection between your work and the work that is pursuing here very actively on Atlas, the Google Earth of Enterprise representation could lead to very significant advances in actually facilitating the dialogue between different frameworks and models, and also providing views for normal people to understand things. And so I hope here my students that are here and connect with the students from Jean Dietz and make enterprise engineering advance as it should in the world. And congratulations again.
Thank you very much. Dr. Bork?
Yeah, Mark, also from my end, all the hearty congratulations. I think you did a very excellent job throughout your thesis. Lots have been said about the circumstances under which you were able to kind of develop such a nice piece of work. You did a great job defending it, showcased that you are one of the experts in this particular field that you have worked with. I really look forward meeting you in the future. I hope you stick as you planned in the scientific community, so we can catch up on having a beer together and discussing further the ideas that are not yet developed entirely, and the future research direction that you sketched interestingly at the end of your thesis. I really look forward to that. For now, all of the best. Enjoy the day, enjoy the coming days with your family. They also deserve to celebrate it together with you. This is always a family effort, as I also personally know. So enjoy these days and then keep pushing. Yeah? There's lots of work to be done, and we need experts like you helping us in that direction.
Great, thanks a lot. Well, Dr. Mulder, you already received quite a lot of compliments. So let me also express my congratulations also on behalf of the doctoral board. Also to your family, to your partner, to your friends, to your colleagues. The good thing about being an acting rector is that you also get a copy of the thesis. So when I'm going to be frustrated trying to set up my next Billy or whatever, then I can look in your appendix and see how to do it. So really useful. Thanks a lot. Great job today. And I would like to end this ceremony by asking you to stand up and I will say a prayer. Gratias tibi agimus, omnipotens Deus, pro omnibus beneficiis tuis, qui vivis et regnas per omnia saecula saeculorum.
Zo is het.